Hello, Internet. This is the IPython/Jupyter Lab Meeting for October 16th, 2014. We're missing a few people due to conferences, so this will probably be a small and maybe even quick one.
So I think I'm the first one on the list.
Yeah.
I have a PR there. It's a very simple PR. It just adds a version trait to the widget base class. And so what that does is it allows us to version the state of widgets. And that way, when widgets load and save their states, they'll be able to know what version, just kind of like NB format has a version, what version the state.
Yeah, so it makes widget states another spec rather than adding widgets to NB format or something like that. It makes widgets an independently versioned spec.
Exactly.
You're thinking like each widget class has its own versioning scheme, right? So version 1 of text box widget is not related to version 1 of the slider.
Exactly. And I put the trait in the base since they would all have a version, and then we could have logic. We could put that loading and saving logic in the base if we wanted to, just to ignore or erase if it's the wrong state or something like that.
So I was trying to think of if you've got a trait on the base widget, so when you update another widget, you're going to change its default value so that all the traits are stay the same, but the one you just read gets do that separately for every widget you change.
Yeah, which might.
But we're only going to bump the number one time per like IPython release.
Yeah, or
so you're gonna have to manually set all of the.
I mean, hopefully for the widgets we ship, things like sliders and checkboxes and things, hopefully most of them won't actually need a lot of changes to the model.
Yeah, in fact, I mean, in one day, hopefully, we won't have to change the version at all, and the widgets will just have one set of versions, right? And they'll span all IPython versions from.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the. I would imagine on release, since we'll bump all versions at most one number.
Yeah, but for people who inherit and do separate packages, they will have also these versions that they can overwrite and bump. So it will be helpful for separate package.
Yeah, and the widgets will eventually be an independent package themselves.
Yeah.
So should it be an integer? Should it be an actual version like everything else?
Oh, that's a good point. It could be done either way.
The disadvantage of using just a single number is there's no way to express backward compatible changes. I think that's probably, we can decide there's no such thing as a backward compatible change to a widget model. That any change to a widget model means, because since widgets are kind of a runtime state persistence kind of thing, unlike the notebook format, I think it might be okay to say we don't handle loading from an even remotely different version, even if that version is just adds a key. Like we just say part of the widget spec is we cannot understand that it's not important for widgets to be interpreted across versions. But I think that's a criterion for using just a single integer as the version.
I think even with a single integer as the version, you could still overwrite the loading logic and make it more complex. So if it saw an integer that it knew it could handle, it could update the state if it wanted to. Like if you made a spreadsheet widget and you decided that you were going to store your spreadsheets in some different sort of state, and you didn't want everybody who used your spreadsheet widget to lose all their spreadsheet data, you could have some kind of logic to migrate that state.
You can also, I mean, we're adding one thing to the widget base class. That doesn't stop people adding other sync straightlets.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
Okay. Did you want? Is that the kind of thing you want to merge, or do you want to simmer on it for a week? And
given where we are at this point, we can merge it and then just change it if we feel it's wrong.
Okay.
I'm not too broken.
Yeah. That's what I was about to say. It's not evil. I promise you. It's not evil.
Yeah. Well, that's what they all say. Yeah. Now go for it. Click if someone wants to click the button. Yeah. So we can spend. You want to check in on 3.0 stuff?
So I put the link to the Trello grid, whatever you call Trello
Board,
things.
I think.
Board, that's it. The list of things that we kind of, I think this was what we said at the dev meeting we'd do. I just wanted to kind of check in is there anything that's already been done? Is there anything that we are deferring? Is there anything that we want to add to this list?
Yeah. I think this covers the big stuff. There's NB format, terminal page, edit page, is widget. And the widget stuff is kind of on its own.
Yeah, the widget stuff has.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's an entire different page with stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Maybe we should put a
widget
card
stuff
on here.
No. Oh, I guess in the widget stuff we have a 3.0 column.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to add myself to this remove pager and add pop out. Let me see, join board. Ta-da! Okay, sweet.
Okay, and widget stuff.
So I currently have the terminal page in progress. You've all seen the pull request for that.
Yep.
And when that's done, I intend to work on the text editor page.
And the text editor, so the text editor page is kind of dependent on the contents manager JS.
Uh-huh. Is that in a pull request at the moment?
Yeah, it's the pull request from Google.
The huge one entitled Drive?
Yes, and so I don't know if we want the relevant piece of that is not so huge. It's just taking the contents manager, basically the REST API part of. So right now in the JavaScript, the notebook JavaScript object implements the client side of the content service REST API.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the main things that PR, or supposedly the primary goal of that PR in its entirety is taking that part and moving it to, taking that JavaScript and moving it to its own object so that it can be reused, because the edit page will make all the same calls for saving, loading, and everything that the notebook does. So maybe we can break that up into break that that PR into a couple of pieces. But we might be able to, if we can iterate with those guys, we might be able to get that PR merged by the time the terminal one's done too. So we can, if we finish terminal one and that one's far from done, then we might need to triage that particular functionality. But for now, we can try to get that one reviewed by the time we get terminal reviewed. MB format 4 is the widget stuff is going in this runtime state thing that is not part of the file format.
Mm-hmm.
That means that I think MB format 4 is
good to go.
Is at least ready for thorough and careful review.
I'm gonna review it after lunch today. And spend a lot of time reading. I saw that it's like 70,000 lines. Hopefully that's notebook files, not.
Oh yeah. So
right,
as
updated notebook files.
While we were working on the state, I didn't update the examples.
Really?
I updated the examples yesterday.
Oh, okay.
So the PR just got a million times bigger. I can also just not update the examples in that PR at all, so it'll be easier to read, and then update the examples in one step, because that's one command line run. Like I just do upgrade notebooks examples, and then commit. So
yeah, if that's easy for you, that would be nice for me.
Yeah, I'll remove that commit and do it in an independent PR that gets no review. I mean, yeah. Yes, a bunch of notebooks changed entirely. I guess we could add a test that's like a simple test that's just goes through our examples and opens them and validates them.
Mm-hmm.
Just a test that says our example notebooks are valid notebooks.
We should probably update NB Viewer before, because otherwise all our notebook won't be readable by NB Viewer.
But that's part. We can't update NB Viewer before we merge. Oh, before you update the examples. Oh, okay. Yeah, we could do that. But that means that nobody can update any examples because you won't be able to do it with master.
Yeah.
But yeah, we can. So if we merge V4, I mean, I can even start working on it now since I think we've pretty much agreed on the spec, which is the important part. I can open a PR against 2.x that does the backport. And then we can, in MB Viewer, we can just point MB Viewer to 2.x.
We can also have a version of NB Viewer for a few weeks, which is not master.
Yeah, but I don't think that's going. But yeah, I'll pull the examples out of that PR, and start working on the backport PR, which is really just dumping a directory in and. Great. What else do we got? Oh yeah, various better suggested a bunch of stuff making the notebook behave better and communicate better when connection problems arise. Probably a similar bit of work for when saving fails is probably appropriate. I think Ryan had mentioned adding to the notebook model, not the notebook model, but a contents model, whether you have write access.
Okay.
So those are the two questions. One is check for access and include that in the model, which would prevent save from ever happening. And the other is where's the other one? The other one is just do a better message when save fails because of permissions.
Mm-hmm.
The key was will not work because you could change the permission on the disk. If you see that you cannot save, you go change the permission on the disk with the terminal.
Yeah, but you'll be so the idea is you'll be notified on open. Like this, you opened a notebook that you cannot save, And so if you want to fix that, you fix it then and just refresh the page.
Yeah.
It won't tell it if you're getting it in the model, it won't wait until you try to save and fail to tell you.
Got it.
Yeah, so it would have to be. It's a question of whether you check on, basically when you check on open or check on save.
Yeah.
I don't have strong feelings. Maybe check on open is, maybe check on open is probably better. I don't know exactly how you're going to notify, because it shouldn't be a dialogue, because you don't want dialogues on read. That could be a reasonable thing to do. And if it's not a dialogue, then it's probably not enough notification.
Yeah, you're just going to ignore it and.
Yeah.
So if it's a dialogue, it's super annoying, and you're probably going to ignore it. If it's not a dialogue, it's not annoying, and you're definitely going to ignore it. So I don't really know what exactly.
I think you definitely want to do it on check on open, though, right? Because you don't want to open a notebook and assume that it's auto-saving for you every now and then, but really it's not, because it's read-only. That would not be good. I
might be inclined to check on open, give a warning in the notification area, but then allow attempts to save. So if the user later discovers that they
disable autosave, but allow explicit save. Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea, and make it a sticky warning.
Mm-hmm.
It'll stick around until someone manually dismisses it, right?
But then, okay. But then you have the problem with if you change it in the file system, it won't. The warning won't go away.
The warning will go away if you successfully save.
Oh, if you successfully save. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So that seems doable.
Yeah. I may not be able to save.
I think it's okay to say you won't be able to save, even if it becomes true. The cases that are addressed by that aren't. I don't think we need to make sure that it's a perfectly accurate statement for all cases. Last I checked, I wasn't able to save, but that doesn't mean you won't be able to save. Go ahead and try, but I won't autosave for you. I think that might be a little long.
I think somebody who knows enough to fix permissions on a file can probably work out that the warning is not automatically updating with that.
Yeah, so I think that should. So that just means adding a field to the contents model, or whether it's writable.
So a field name probably not writable.
Yeah.
Value maybe.
Why are so many duplicates? Text editor. So taking the kernel selection dropdown out of the notebook page, and then adding it to the new notebook. But
it should be in both. You should.
Yeah, I thought it would be in both.
No, so I think we'll leave it in the kernel menu. But take it out. Take the thing at the top. Take that out.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what I remember from the dev meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Saving its state is where it got controversial, both because Matthias felt that recording the state and go back to the last one would be more annoying than just having a consistent default, and we felt that it's just one more
But you have a REST API for config, so it's fine now. You can configure stuff.
Yeah. Do we want to?
So it is now configurable in the back end.
Yeah, it's just not changeable.
But I mean, it's changeable by editing the config.
Yeah, it's not changeable at runtime.
Yeah.
Because it's backend config, not front end config.
Yeah. So yeah, once the config REST API thing is done and merged, then it could be the first thing that uses that. But Matthias, you were unsure about the utility of saving state at all. I think it was you, wasn't it? You felt that the return to last behavior, I think you said with iOS keyboards, was more annoying than just having a predictable default.
I've been
Unplugged in there. Which I can kind of understand. I could go either way on this. I mean, I can kind of see that, if I create a Julia notebook to test something out, that doesn't necessarily mean that the next notebook I create should be Julia as well.
Although with your config REST API, that of course points in the direction of having a preferences page.
It could be much simpler than a preference page. It could just be that the drop-down has just two sides, and on the side you can just pin one kernel and it's the default one, like a star, like whatever. Because if you click on the name, it's you open a specific kernel, but it doesn't set the default. But if you click on the star, which is in front, it goes to the top and stays to the top. But just the last selected one is, in my opinion, super.
Okay, so selecting a kernel is so it would be a separate. The configuration would be somewhere else that you say make this the default.
Yeah, or just on the drop down you have stars and you stars or pin the kernel you want on top. So it's the same menu, but just.
But it's not okay. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that seems reasonable. I don't know if you can actually do that. Making sure the right click events.
You can do every.
What else would be nice? Yeah. Okay. But in any case, I think that's reasonable. That you start a kernel, and then somewhere else you say change what kernels I start, and that somewhere else changes. Yes, that means new notebook. Well, that's an implementation shell. It's not actually clear to me what the sequence of events for a new notebook with a specific kernel would actually behave. I guess maybe a URL parameter and the link that you create. I don't know. Because a new notebook normally doesn't have a kernel spec. And when it doesn't have a kernel spec, it loads the default kernel. But the default kernel that it loads isn't actually something you can change.
When you click new notebook in the web UI,
mm-hmm.
does it just send you to a page and the request for that page creates the notebook, or does it make a REST API call and then send you to a page from the return value of that call?
It makes a REST API.
Okay, so it could have something in the model saying,
yeah, give me this, give me a new notebook with this kernel, which means that rather than creating an empty notebook, it creates it on the server side. It creates a notebook and writes the kernel spec to its metadata before redirecting it. I think that's doable. Yeah. But yeah, I don't think it'll fit super well with where the APIs are drawn between handlers and contents managers and things, but it'll be doable. I might end up writing a file twice, but that's no big deal. Okay, what else is on here? Move the pager. Oh, geez, are we still not merged John's epic?
No, I think it needs some work now too.
Okay.
It's out of date.
Yeah, I think there are other things that are more important and are more important to simmer in master than that one.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's probably appropriate that we're working on other things. But if you're getting bothered by us not reviewing your PRs, just ping us again.
Okay.
And if you think it's ready, then just let us know, and
Okay.
we can try to get it in.
Yeah, I'll try to put some time aside to fix that one up ASAP.
And my last point on the agenda is, please people, review some PRs, because we have a lot of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. I'm trying to do a release of PyZine Q today, but I'll try to not open any IPython PRs today. I know my net flux is definitely I'm not reviewing as many PRs as I'm opening, so I'll try not to open any new PRs. I'll try to review some. Okay.
Sounds good.
John has some easy PRs to work with. Yeah. Okay.
Is that it for today?
That's our agenda. Anybody got anything unlisted that they want to bring up?
I'll probably think of something right when we hang up.
Yeah, but we have the internet, so we can communicate without hanging up.
When are you switching to winter time or something like that?
Oh, I don't know. All the computers do it automatically, so I don't really notice. I think it's in November. When is daylight savings?
Matthias, do you come out here for your postdoc,
November
or do you do
2nd.
that remotely?
On January, February, but we need to sort out all the paperwork stuff which is not done yet. I'm still officially unemployed.
Oh, okay, but you
Well,
do come out in January or February.
Yeah, we need to see that.
Cool.
Yeah, well,
I'm officially I'm not
do it. That'll be interesting to see if that does something.
employed, but
if you click on the link that that Min has posted in, we're interested to see if it gives you the same, because daylight saving time in Europe is different from daylight saving time in the US.
Yeah.
United States. Sunday,
Right,
March, November 2. And in Europe, it's 1 week before, or 2 weeks before.
They keep moving it.
Yeah.
There have been some awesome daylight savings related bugs over the past few years that have been fairly astonishing.
You mean like the Zune of Microsoft that doesn't work on December 31?
Let's see, there was an iOS bug that alarms would be off by an hour until you turned them off and back on again.
Ooh.
I think they fixed that 1 or 2 years ago. And there's been a bug in OS X for something like 10 years where CPU load went to like 100% for a few hours before midnight.
That's great. Are you sure that's not an Easter egg?
Saving time is really hard.
I think that one's fixed now too, but that was also true until the last year or two. Pretty awesome.
One of the bugs that we go through in the open hatch sessions is one where people in some locale found that their Android calendars were missing December. It was an off by 1 error in the calendar.
Yeah, well, you know, there are too many events in December usually. So.
Speaking of locals, for the terminal notebook PRs with default term.js library, you cannot type any characters need the alt press, which means on some French keyboard and the like, you cannot type pipe, you cannot type parents, you cannot type brackets, you cannot type square brackets.
Sounds like you got a PR against Term.js coming.
Yes,
But the maintainer don't merge PR for, I think there hasn't been any PR merge in 7 months.
Ouch.
Yeah. The upside of using a separate library is that we can say, any bugs in that, go and talk to that library. The downside in this case is that nothing is happening with that library.
Yep.
So, and we don't want to fork Term.js, do we, Matthias?
Yeah, we can bug somebody else to fork Term.js. All right.
Bye, interwebs.
Farewell, internet.
Okay.
Go and
See ya.
mention
Hey, guys.
that.
Take care.